track fans all across the nation were saddened earlier this month when longtime public address announcer Jim Duncan passed away. But as you're about to see, Jim Duncan was a lot more than the voice of the Drake relays.
Obviously, track is very dear to my heart. I started working in 1927 setting hurdles. That was my freshman year, and I couldn't compete, so I set hurdles that year. And that was the beginning of it. And then I competed in the relays. Later, I coached teams and brought them into the relays. And then I came back to Des Moines in 1950. And I worked on the PA crew in 50, and then I started announcing morning events in 51.
As a student at Drake University, Jim Duncan was a writer, an actor, and a Missouri Valley 440-yard track champion. His academic prowess earned him the cherished Phi Beta Kappa key. Quite an accomplishment when you consider that Jim didn't even begin his formal education until the age of 10. Yet he graduated from high school at age 14. Following graduation from Drake, Jim began a career in education initially at Minburn, Iowa, where he served as administrator, teacher, and coach, and where his teams had to face the likes of Niall Kinnick in football and Bob Feller in baseball. Later, Jim Duncan returned to Drake, where he began a 31-year reign as one of the nation's foremost broadcast media educators, and in 1966 was selected as one of the nation's 33 super professors by Esquire magazine.
What he implanted in me was to try and keep learning. Try and look at the other point of view, gather the material, let's say, that's there, and then try and do some research. And he always said to respect other people's opinion and other people's discipline, and then find out something new and go after it. And the biggest thing is that I'm always afraid that I might do something that he wouldn't have liked. And you don't want to do that with a man who's really put a lot of himself in all of his students. And, you don't want to let that guy down.
The year is 1964.
The female athlete always held a special place in the heart of Jim Duncan. Girls' high school basketball fans in the state of Iowa grew accustomed to his recognizable style of introducing each year's Hall of Fame awards at the state basketball tournament. E. Wayne Cooley is the executive secretary of the Iowa Girls High School Athletic Union, a governing body whose innovative programs have helped to elevate high school girls' athletics into the national spotlight.
Now, to the Iowa girl, he was the one who did as much as anybody to give the Iowa girl national prestige and national prominence. He was a great friend of the Iowa girl, and much of our credit goes to Jim Duncan.
She's a basketball walk-on there, but immediately she starts a spectacular career. She leads her team to a 21-2 season that misses a national tournament by 2 points. And
considering his fondness for women's athletics, it comes as no surprise that Jim would have some personal favorites from the Drake relays.
The late Peg Nepple, of course, was a big thrill when we saw her break the world's record at Drake in the 5,000. And I'll never have any deeper thoughts for any athlete than I did for Debbie Esser, who came through all sorts of problems, broken collarbones, gallstone operations, tremendous difficulty physically, and all she did was win 4 national championships.
Perhaps one of the honors Jim cherished most occurred last year when the track at Drake Stadium was renamed the Jim Duncan Track.
They took him down there in the little cart, and he stood down there, and they opened this thing, and I don't think there was a dry eye in the stadium. It was a very moving moment, and it was a tribute to a mighty, mighty fine sports figure.
Being a legend is more than what you do, it's what you are. And Jim was not only an outstanding announcer when it came to the Drake relays, but Jim was a warm, personable, friendly, extremely knowledgeable individual that could talk to you about just about anything and any questions that you might have in the area of track and field, or certainly any other area of athletics. If you didn't have the answer, Jim Duncan would have it for you.
He's a legend because of an unusual ability and a marvelous, remarkable mind. I'll miss Jim like you miss a brother that you loved.
it is Prairie View. They got the baton. Underway, and breaking well is Latany. Latany and Ingram. Latany. It's Bill Latany.
It's the University 4x800 relay, the Frank Kramer Drake Relay's record to Nebraska at 1985, 7:14.89. Arizona State in 84 set the national collegiate record. The American record for the Santa Monica Track Club in 86, and Great Britain set the world mark in 1982. Let's take a look at the lane assignments in the waterfall start. Drake and Notre Dame, lanes 1 and 2. Minnesota and Iowa State, 3 and 4. Clemson and Illinois State, 5 and 6. Northern Iowa and Arizona, lanes 7 and 8. Illinois and Prairie View next in line, and then LSU and Kansas. And let's keep an eye on that Clemson foursome coming into this one with the NCAA Indoor Championship, a world best at 7:17.45 for Clemson. You see David Whitman with the lead anchor in this one.
Well, Arizona won this last year. John Quaid and Doug Heron are back for them, but they've got 2 new men on the team, and they may only have 3 legs, and you're going to need 4 good legs to win it today, because there's 2 great anchor men. For Clemson, there's Terrence Harrington, and for Illinois, Carlton Hamer. And so to be competitive in this one, you're going to need someone on that anchor leg that's world class, and Arizona may not have that this year.
That's Prairie View out with the early lead. It's John Williams. Drake University with Dean O'Hughes next in line, and now Iowa State with James Hall. This is the 4x800. Everybody goes around twice.
Closely bunched field right now as they go by the first 400 meters in a very quick time, about 55 seconds. Anything under 1:52 is pretty good lead-off leg, and they're certainly on pace to do that. The weather pretty good for distance running. It's cool, the track is nice and firm, and the wind in the stadium really favors the oval races.
Illinois deep into the pack, expected to be a factor into this one. You see Minnesota in the lead with Clemson.
David Whitman from Clemson, a 1:49 800-meter runner, tried to get out early and stretch the field out, but he doesn't get away. He's in third right now.
Now let's join Larry Morgan.
This morning started early as some of the 355 registered entries for the Drake Marathon started to show up at 6 a.m. It was sunny right up to the start of the race, but when the gun went off, it was overcast and in the low 50s. The race was bunched up for the first few miles with no front runner. But at the 5-mile mark, number 2, Phil Cotter of Cascade, Iowa, and number 4, Jeff Wubina of Fort Dodge, Iowa, had established themselves as the pace setters for the race. Meanwhile, the women still had no clear-cut leader, with number 229, Stacy Roberts of Cedar Falls, Iowa, number 64, Kathleen Freeland of Des Moines, Iowa, and number 192, Connie Frank of Waterloo, Iowa, all running closely together. At the 15-mile mark, with a gusty wind blowing directly in the runners' faces, Connie Frank of Waterloo made her move and established herself as the front runner for the women. Phil Cotter of Cascade and Jeff Wubina of Fort Dodge still ran side by side. But at the 20-mile mark, Jeff Wubina made his move and opened up the lead that would hold to the end. Jeff Wubina crossed the finish line as the overall winner of the Drake Marathon with a time of 2:29.24. And this is what he had to say.
The course was real good. I love the course. I got a stitch at about the 15-mile mark. That last 6 miles was fast. It was fast last 6 miles. The weather was perfect. The weather, I'd like to have a little drizzle myself, but it was an excellent race.
Meanwhile, back on the course, Connie Frank had opened up a 3-minute lead on her nearest competitor to come across the line as the women's winner with a time of 3:06.29. This was the first marathon that Connie Frank had ever run, and we talked with her about that.
I've been training since September, and I was working really hard. And I had a lot of friends from Waterloo that helped me, ran with me and supported me a lot, and I really appreciate it.
Now, over to Morgan Halgren.
Sports medicine has always been an important part of athletics, but at the Drake Relays, it's come to mean prevention as well as treatment. And with me is Scott Kerr, who is the head trainer here at Drake. Scott, what are you doing?
Well, I'm doing a little massage on Sherry's back here. She has to high jump at about 130 today, and she is very tight in the low back, and she does the flop type method where she goes over the bar backwards, and so we have to get this loosened up before she jumps.
Okay, and ideally, would you give them a massage before and after they perform?
Not usually. We usually will do it beforehand to loosen them up, warm them up a little bit. Afterwards, we'll use a lot of ice to cool them off. We don't want to keep them too hot because they'll have a lot of blood in the area. That might cause a little bit of injury or soreness.
What are some of the other techniques that you use?
We also will stretch Sherry out. We can use some ice along with some stretching, perhaps some wraps if she's very cold. We may also have to tape some athletes or wrap them in their legs or the ankles or arch, things like that.
Okay. And in terms of treatment, what's the most common injury you see?
The most common injury will be like a muscle pull to the legs, the hamstrings. The kids don't get loosened up and stretched out well enough, and then they go out and run hard, and they pull up lame, and then they're out for several weeks. So then that's a very common injury.
Okay, so prevention is important then.
Very important.
All right, those are the doctor's orders. Back to you, Mike.
Mike Newell and Marty LaCory back here at the Drake Relays. It's Arizona and Clemson. Now Clemson with Philip Grayling out of South Africa to take the lead. Now Illinois will take over in second place for Arizona. That's Len Sitko for Illinois behind Phil Grayling of Clemson. It's going to be a duel down the backstretch.
Clark Sr. from Arizona had the lead just 100 yards ago. Now he's faded back to fourth. The defending champions, Arizona, just one leg on their team was a little bit weak. And now Illinois and Clemson are starting to pull away. And they've got the two great anchor men, two of the top 800-meter runners in the country. For Illinois, who's in second right now, Carlton Hamer. He's run 1:45.7. There he is with the stick in second. He's run 1 second faster at 800 meters than the leader, Terrence Harrington. So now neither of them wants to lead. Harrington's looking back, and Carlton Hamer is saying, go ahead and lead. I think I can beat you on the run-in. And what they're allowing to happen is the rest of the field will start to close on them as they eyeball each other.
Little bit of cat and mouse with Harrington in the lead for Clemson. For Illinois, it's Hamer. And when I say cat and mouse, you hit the nail right at the head, Marty. Nobody wanted the lead on the baton exchange.
Well, I think Terrence Harrington in first and Carlton Hamer can both be confident that they can outkick everyone else in the field. The question is, of the two of them, who both had great years last year, which one is sharper right now and will have a better kick? But they've allowed Kansas back there in fifth, everybody, to have a little shot of it as they have one more lap to go. 1:46 is Terrence Harrington's best time. He's a 3:55 miler, and Hamer has run 1:45.7. And right now, Doug Heron of Arizona, recognizing that fact, tries to make an early move as Terrence Harrington, with 200 meters to go, picks up the pace. And now Carlton Hamer gives chase. It looks like Doug Heron from Arizona has to let go. They're flying now.
Top of the stretch and down the home stretch. Clemson, the NCAA indoor champion, with a world best time, trying to lock down the Drake Relays championship. It is Harrington for Clemson, Hamer for Illinois, and Clemson's going to win it. In the Frank Kramer 4x800, Clemson, Illinois, and Illinois State finish 1, 2, and 3. The Clemson time 7:19.47. The 200-meter dash, the women's special invitational, and we're looking at a possible record-breaking performance. The Drake Relays mark for Rosalind Bryant set in 1974. The American and world records held by Florence Griffith Joyner, the national collegiate mark by Merlene Oddie, and once again, Florence Griffith Joyner. We will go to the lane assignments in this one. Carol Bailey of Concordia, Nebraska in lane 3. Lane 4, one of the favorites, Fali Ogunkoya of Mississippi State. Lane 5, Teresa Neighbors. Lane 6, Benita Thomas of Alabama. And lane 7, Melody Dawkins of Grambling State. Keep your eye on lane number 4. Fali Ogunkoya of Mississippi State. Top qualifying time at 22.97.
She doesn't have great speed for the 100 meters, but in this race in the 400 meters, she really can finish fast.
It's Teresa Neighbors with the early lead, but look at Ogunkoya coming on. Ogunkoya in lane 4. Ogunkoya in lane 4. Teresa Neighbors in lane 5. And we potentially have a new Drake record for the women's special invitational.
If the time holds up, it's 22:99 unofficially. That would knock almost a second off of the record. This was a good day to run the 200 meters because the wind is coming at their backs, the final straightaway, but it's a cool day, so that was a great performance. Fali does not get out of the blocks quickly, but once she gets on the straightaway, she starts to pull away. This may not be her best event. She may be a natural 400-meter runner because her 100-meter speed is slower than most of the other women in the field, but at 200 meters, she's superior. So as she goes to the longer distances, she might even have more success.
It's a new Drake Relays record in the Women's Special Invitational 200. Fali Ogunkoya of Mississippi State wins it. Teresa Neighbors of Texas San Antonio is second. Benita Thomas of Alabama gets third. It's the high school boys 1600-meter run. A defending champion makes an appearance. He is also looking for his second title today. His name is Lance Elliott. In the staggered start, he is in lane 2. Elliott.
Lance Elliott already won the 3,200 meters this morning, 9:18:31, and this is a huge field. The high school 1600 meters, basically the mile run. It's tough to exclude anybody at the high school level because they haven't been running enough years that you can really say, well, this guy's 5 seconds better than this guy, because in high school, people can improve 5 seconds overnight. So you've really got to try and let everyone in. And sometimes the fields get kind of crowded. This looks more like a cross-country race. You've got people out in the 5th lane here with long sleeve shirts on. Quite an unusual scene for the end of April in the major track meet, to be still wearing long sleeves. And they're going to go by the 400 meters in a fairly quick 63 seconds with still a pack of some 15 or so athletes right there, and they all seem to be handling that pace quite well.
Marty, it's worth recalling at this hour that you were the last high school performer ever to run a sub-4-minute mile. And that goes back a few years, and it's going to take a lot to beat that. Why hasn't it happened?
Well, there's not a week that doesn't go by that somebody doesn't call me to discuss that subject. I just think that the athletes today have a lot more things occupying their time and their interest than sports, to tell you the truth. And miling is not an event that you can do on 1 hour a day preparation. It's a twice-a-day workout, 3 hours a day, and we haven't really seen any Americans putting in the kind of time to achieve that anymore. Many of them are waiting until college to really train that hard, which may be a good thing in the long run, but I think my attitude was I trained every day as hard as I could for as long as I could. 2:09 now by the 800 meters.
Let's get an update on some field event activity with Larry Morgan.
The best of Iowa's high school field event competitors vied for relays crowns Friday and Saturday. The pole vault was won by Brian Ferry of Dubuque Senior with an effort of 13 feet. Lincoln of Stanwood's Rule Kirsten handily won the shot put by launching it 55 feet 4 1/4 inches. John Pelzer of Atlantic won the discus by throwing 175 feet 4 inches. In the long jump, Levance Banks of Bettendorf leaped 22 feet 6 1/2 inches to keep Darwin Vandyhoof from winning his 4th relays event this year. But Vandyhoof did hang on to win the high jump Friday by clearing 6 feet 11 inches, winning by an inch. Darwin Vandyhoof has successfully defended his Drake Relay's high jump mark. And Darwin, you did not get to the 7-1 you did last year. How'd you feel about your 6'11 today?
Well, I felt pretty good coming in today. I was really hoping to go like 7'2", 7'3", something like that. So I had my expectations high, and I thought I would have a pretty good jump today. So going 6'11", I was a little disappointed.
How about the shots at 7'2"? Anything come close?
I thought my last shot was, my last jump was pretty good. It was the closest of them all. I was really leaning into the bar too much today on all my jumps.
Okay, thank you.
We're in the final lap of the 1,600-meter run. High school boys going for a second straight championship at the top of the third.
Big move now by Bill Sattler from Clinton as he moves into second. But Lance Elliott took care of this race on the third lap and doesn't have to worry about it now in the home stretch as he digs for a good time, and it's going to be a fairly good time. 4:17, 4:18, and second place will come in at about 4:22.
Lance Elliott matches up his 3,200-meter championship with a victory, second straight in the 1,600-meter run. The time, 4:18.25. Bill Sattler of Clinton gets second. Doug Kuhn of Des Moines Hoover is third. Drake Relay's presentation. To your left is Wayne Duke, outgoing Big Ten commissioner. To the right is Irv Cross, and he is the honorary parade marshal. Duke, the honorary referee. 2 Hall of Fame award winners in the center. Pat Jackson and Deborah Milrose from Prairie View, and Michael Franks, you see. Ranked number 1 in the world in the 400 meters in 1985. He inducted with Jim Hines. Larry Morgan had a chance to talk with Michael Franks.
An 8-time All-American at Southern Illinois, Michael Franks really become a fixture at the Drake Relays. Now in the Hall of Fame, that's quite an honor. As you look back and remember your performances in the relays, which one thrilled you the most?
I think I had more pleasure in the first one, simply because it was something really new for me, and I had never been in a situation where the fan and the support that you got from the fans was so intense, and they knew who you were, so the fans were more knowledgeable. And then the announcer, he really did a job on me that first time when I ran that mile relay here. So it would have to be the first time I came back in '82, and I can remember so vividly the 1,600-meter relay, and I guess Mr. Duncan was saying, here comes Henley, and he was saying, here comes these other guys. And at that time, it excited you and it sparked because you, oh my goodness, I have to really get with it. So I wish I could have had the opportunity to tell him, but he really helped me out a lot in that he got me excited, and I haven't come down yet. So
that's a pretty neat story. Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
And now, over to you, Morgan Halgren.
The Baz, Flojo, you name it. Athletes all across the nation are making a fashion statement. And the tradition continues here at the Drake Relays. I'm here with
Teresa Neighbors. I'm from University of Texas at San Antonio. I just finished the 100 and placing second in my heat.
Congratulations. Were you influenced by Flojo?
Yes, I was at the 1988 Olympics. I didn't hear too much about her in the '84, but I was impressed with her. I like her style and her competition and her challenge to win.
What can you tell us about your fashion statement here?
Well, for sure I'm not copying Flojo because I had them way before I even saw the '88 Olympics, so I'm not copying her. As for the gold, I just, it was gifts and I put them on, I wear them, and I get more worried about taking them off and sitting them down, worried about them getting lost, so I just feel that it's a mental process, so I just run in them. They don't weigh me down and I don't even pay attention to them.
So it's not a hazard, any of it?
No, not at all.
Do you think that there is a fashion statement being made seriously in athletics?
I think so now that Flojo came out with all the little cute outfits she came out with, because before you see a lot of track athletes and they would think of us looking more like men out there on the track, and now we're starting to look like females out on the track running.
Okay.
So I think it is.
No matter what the event, fashion prevails.
It's the women's 4x100 relay. Drake Relays marked to Illinois in 1988. 43.94, the NCAA mark, to Florida State in 83. And the U.S. national team in 83 set the American mark. East Germany has the world record at 41.37. NCAA qualifying time, by the way, is 45.34. We take a look at LSU. They are in lane number 5. And a group of top flight performers you will see here. They are national caliber, of course, because 4 times out of the last 6 NCAA championships, they've been right up on top. Marty?
Rematch of sorts here today. Louisiana State lost to Texas Southern in the 4x200. Great race. Collegiate record fell by the wayside. And after the race, the LSU runners said that Texas Southern had run fast, slow, fast, slow. And I don't pretend to know what she was talking about, but LSU has changed their order and put Dawn Soul, the fastest woman in collegiate sprinting, on the second leg instead of on the anchor leg, and they've kind of got a fast, slow order today also. Texas Southern leading off with Hope Opeka, and there she is right there. Stick passing in this race is going to be very important, and as will the start. Tenangeline Stanley was going to lead off for LSU, but I see Felicia Webster, 395, is now going to lead off. And they have put Dawn Soul on the second leg, which gives her that long back straightaway. She'll try and take the stick early and hand it off late, and instead of running just 100 meters, maybe run 120 or 25. But right now, Texas Southern has the lead. Texas Southern with about a 5-yard lead over LSU, and LSU will get the stick after Texas Southern. Lots of pressure now by Texas Southern for a good handoff on the anchor leg. Marion Yale taking the stick for Texas Southern. LSU blows the stick pass and blows the race as Nebraska will sneak by on the inside and get second. Texas Southern, though, is the story here, as they have started the outdoor season very well after LSU dominated on the indoor circuit.
Texas Southern on the anchor with Marion Yale. Jimena Restrepo for Nebraska with the anchor leg to get second, and LSU will log third.
Well, LSU got themselves into a position where they were losing coming into the anchor leg, and this is it right here, and they had to try for a perfect stick pass in their anchor leg. Esther Jones took off too soon to try and go with the anchor leg of Marion Yale, and by doing that, she started to leave without the stick, and it's always the person receiving the stick's responsibility to slow up and get it. She tried to run with the competition, but the stick just wasn't there for her.
Texas Southern is the winner in a time of 44.20. Nebraska gets second and LSU third. It's the University 4x100 relay. The Drake relays mark to Alabama in 1983. TCU, the NCAA mark, that in 86. The U.S. national team set the world and American marks in 1984. NCAA qualifying is 39.85. Lane 1 will see Texas El Paso. In lane 2, Illinois. Arizona holds lane 3. In lane 4, Texas A&M, one of the favorites. Ball State in lane 5. Louisiana State lane 6. Purdue and Nebraska in the 2 outside lanes, lanes 7 and 8.
Texas A&M in 4 is the heavy favorites here with Stanley Kerr, Derek Florence, Andre Kaysen, who has already won the Open 100, and Howard Davis. LSU with a good team, but Slip Watkins is their anchor man. He didn't run in the 100, and maybe he won't be at full strength here in the relay.
We're keeping an eye on lane 4 with Texas A&M looking for a second straight NCAA, Drake Relays title, and that's Derek Florence on the exchange to Andre Kaysen.
This is Kaysen now. He's opening up a bit of a lead. Texas A&M was tentative on that last handoff, and LSU is not going to be anywhere near Texas A&M on the inside. Texas El Paso has the battle for second place, but look at the margin of victory for Texas A&M. Howard Davis anchoring Texas A&M to the victory.
Texas A&M out of the gates in a hurry with Stanley Kerr, then Derek Florence. Here's Andre Kaysen.
This is Florence's exchange to Kaysen. You saw Florence start to slow up. He overran Kaysen, and Kaysen, once he gets the stick in his hand, starts to accelerate and pull away from the field. Now, in the last exchange, Texas A&M had a little bit more leeway, and the handoff taken on the outside of the zone by Howard Davis on the inside. Texas El Paso in command of second place, but as they approach the finish, LSU is driving for second also, but Texas A&M wins by quite a big margin in this type of a race.
Texas A&M is the winner at 39.67. Second place to LSU, and Texas El Paso is third. It's the men's 400-meter dash, the special invitational, and the record goes to Harry Reynolds at the Drake Relays. Out of Ohio State in 1987, he set the mark. NCAA record, now 21 years old, Lee Evans of San Jose State. And Butch Reynolds holds the American and world marks as well. Michael Franks won it last year, and this year they stack up this year. It's Bruce Berry of Alabama in lane 2. In lane 3, Guy Scott of Michigan State. He is a senior, fourth in the Big Ten Indoor. Kevin Little will be one of the favorites. He took a first-place finish in the Alabama 400 meters. He's going for his second invitational title today. Keith Moten of Grambling State, first-place finisher at LSU, will be in lane 5. Lane 6, Tyrone Watkins of Kansas State, a sophomore. Rob Collier of Missouri in lane 7. Dario Robinson in lane 8. He is a junior. And the scratch, Tyrone Watkins in lane 6. But take a look at lane 4. Kevin Little of Drake University going for his second invitational title. He is a 200-meter world-class performer, finished third at the World Meet. And now he's going after a 400-meter title.